what is your go-to fun fact that you share about yourself?
Oh my god, this question, man.
This is actually, Patrick, an omega big brain transition into another topic. I
Okay.
don't know if this is intentional, probably not, but my
Probably
go-to fun
not.
fact, my go-to fun fact is that I compete on the men's varsity track and field team at Carnegie Mellon
Ooh.
University.
Ooh. Ooh. Wait, that was shit. That was an unintended transition, but that was a good
That's
transition.
kind of big brain.
I'll
Right?
take credit for it. Yes. Okay.
Hey, nice question, Patrick.
Did you actually Did you say that like whenever?
So that's typically what I mean, it depends on who the fun fact is for, but that's what I've been saying for Amazon because I feel like in a demographic of software engineers, being athletic is kind of fun.
Everyone's a fat fuck.
No. Actually, people are like surprised, like in Seattle or like in Pacific Northwest in general, like people are very fit. Like they all love like hiking and
Wait,
everything.
does that mean like people in New Jersey are not?
No, it's like a different kind of thing. Just like the notion
People in
of
Texas are Texas size.
just like the notion of outdoorsy activities is a lot
Okay.
less important.
Mm.
For us, it's much more of a sit by the beach, as a like a very like stereotypical gross generalization activity is to go to the beach for me, New Jersey. I'm like by the shore and stuff, Jersey Shore, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas like a stereotypical thing for someone in the state of Washington could be like going hiking with their Nalgene water bottle and wearing Patagonia, stuff like that.
Well, I feel like you're in a specific demographic as well. Like, seems like everybody enjoys going hiking. Like, it's like the most safe thing you could say to try and flesh out your personalities. Like, I like going hiking. I feel like that's what a lot of people do.
It is very safe.
And it's like,
but yeah, so I mean, if my fun fact is for other things, I don't know. Sometimes it depends. Dude. I don't have any go-to.
You know what you should say is your fun fact. You could say, my friends.
I did a podcast.
Oh,
I was a guest on a
that could be one fun fact. I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna say my friends sometimes call me Mr. Worldwide, so call me Pip. Oh, okay, that was like I was trying to get the connection with Mr. Worldwide. You know what? We're going back to the original transition. The original transition about you being a track and field. You said like basically all your times morning like working out and stuff. Is that like to maintain shape for what you're gonna do like as a athlete?
Yeah, it was mainly that. I'm just like trying to stay in shape for the coming season. But also just like for personal health and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still doing it this coming season, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So how long have you been doing track and field stuff? I heard you were like really good in high school. I mean, not that you aren't now, just
No, I'm pretty trash now. I'm like
you were really good.
I'm well past my prime. Yeah, so I started in like middle school. It started when I don't know if you remember, but on the Nintendo DS there was this game. It was like Sonic vs Mario Olympics. You could do all sorts of like different events, and one of the events was the throwing events. More specifically, the hammer throw. If you're not familiar with the hammer throw, it's the one where it looks like a ball at the end of a chain, and then you spin in circles like 4 times and toss this ball in a chain.
It's a pretty useless hammer.
It's not a chain. It's not an actual hammer. I don't know why it's named that. It's actually a wire attached to an iron ball that's 16 pounds. But yeah, I just thought that was like cool. So when then I heard that my middle school had track, I was like, yo, that's lit. I want to do that. Little did I know that's not available at the middle school or high school available because it's too risky. Like you might kill someone.
Is that an actual event like called hammer throw? Like where it's a ball on a...
It's in the Olympics.
Oh. I never knew that.
Yeah, you've probably seen videos of it before, just not knowing what it's called. Um,
Yeah, well, I don't remember ever seeing anything with like the ball is attached to a wire or like a chain. If
yeah, it's a
that's what you're
wire.
describing. Okay,
Um,
interesting.
but yeah, so I just thought that was cool. But then they had other things like shot put and discus. And then I, I just, I've always been like decently tall. Like I hit my growth spurt pretty early, so kind of had that going. I wasn't half bad. And then it just kind of became fun, but it was always like a secondary thing to basketball. I had grown up playing basketball and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, and then I got bad at basketball. I got cut from the school team freshman year,
Oh
or after
fuck.
freshman year. Rather, I didn't make it sophomore year. So I turned to track to specialize, and then I got pretty okay at track,
Mhm.
and okay enough to do it in college. And now that I am in college, uh, I care a lot less about it, because the reality of corporate America has taken more of a priority in my life,
And
and
society,
and
man.
doing school and just being a functioning adult instead of a athlete. Because if I wanted to be good at track at the collegiate level, I don't think I'd be able to maintain a CS degree or like um, get the internships that I've gotten. Not that it's not possible, just I don't think it's just way too much effort. So
Mhm.
the triangle, like you mentioned earlier, something has to suffer. So for me, track's been suffering a lot, but yeah, for me now it's sort of like a lot less of a competitive thing. Uh, but so like I'm doing a lot less because I want to be the best. Now I still enjoy competing a lot, and I still want to get really good, but not quite to the extent that I was in high school. Um, and otherwise, it's just like a fun community that I'm part of, and it's a good way to stay in shape. And I've had a lot of friends from there, and it's something that I'm pretty good at.
Mm-hmm.
For to quantify goodness for the track folk out there, aka maybe Gus's cousin who was listening. I don't know. This looks like a cousin. I just made that up.
Dozen.
His cousin is Gus bussin' or is he gussin'?
Or is he guzzling?
Oh,
Oh.
ayo, sus.
Among Us?
Among Us.
Okay.
Okay, we've
Back on
gone too
track.
far. We've gone too far.
Actually, I don't know if I've said this before, but there's like a title. There's like a New York Times article from like the 90s or like the 80s. It's like, um, it's essentially saying like there was disharmony between like United States, uh, Jewish people and like the state of Israel or something like that. But the way they phrased the headline was discord among U.S. Jews causes whatever, right? But if you read
Discord
that out,
among us.
if you read that out in text, it looks like discord among us Jews. So you're just stuck there being like, what is discord among us and Jews have in common?
Mhm.
But it's talking about how like the Jewish people in the United States are like, yeah, this our generation is screwed. Anyway, to quantify, um, I guess if I was good or not, um, in high school, the cold hard facts was my PB in discus is 172 feet roughly, or 171 feet and something inches. And PB in shot put is 51 feet and 1 inch. That's the cold hard facts. To quantify that with a bit more flourish, I'm a school record holder at my high school.
Okay.
And pretty consistently placed first in most meets at the conference/region level. It's probably top 10 to 20 in the state. Definitely good enough to walk on to like a local Division 1 school. So for people in New Jersey, like probably could have walked on to like Montclair, Ramapo, Monmouth, stuff like that. But not to like get a full ride scholarship or anything.
Mm.
I was able to make nationals my senior year, and I placed third in the emerging elite division of discus.
Ooh.
So yeah, that was that. So that's the more flourish if you don't understand the cold hard numbers. Yeah,
That is very
that was
impressive.
pretty much my entire personality in high school. The sad reality is that even though it's like, oh, athlete this, athlete that, primary motivation was that, and now this is the try-hard Asian in me. The primary motivation for getting good at track was the
College
possibility that it might help with college applications.
I knew it.
And looks like it worked.
Yeah, it worked pretty damn well, actually.
Yes, it did.
So
Well-
now what I mean by that is, so the Division 3 recruiting process is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit weird because Division 3 schools are not allowed to give scholarships or anything. So I'm still paying like any other student would.
Mhm.
And there's no like formal advantage in the admissions process. So when you look at a D1, D2 school, if you're a recruited athlete, you just, as long as you have some like bare minimum GPA or bare minimum SAT, we're talking like 1000 SAT or like 2.0 GPA in high school, like
High bar.
you're good to go. Whereas as a Division 3 athlete, you're evaluated just like any other student. The way I think about it is just whenever the admissions officers, so what happens is like the coach will have a list of students that they want to recruit, and they can give that to the admissions officer, and then they can see like, oh, this student is getting recruited, and all that really does is it adds a blue check mark to your extracurriculars. That's the way I see it. So like if I was verified on Instagram or verified on Twitter, right? The blue check mark. It essentially it just adds a blue check mark to my track category. That's the way I interpret it. Because at the end of the day, they still read your essay, they still look at your grades and all your other things. And you're still evaluated on that first, and they're not like obligated to admit you or anything. So like there's quite a few schools that I was getting athletically recruited to, but I didn't get in academically. For example, UChicago. But there are places where I did get in academically, fortunately, like CMU. But I did, having a blue check mark at the end of the day, it's still a blue check mark. So the way I see it is like, it's just adding extra validity to your extracurriculars. So like me being a recruited athlete for Carnegie Mellon is a kind of like extracurricularly equal to, I don't know, maybe someone being on IMO or something like that.
So you
yeah.
like this process of being a really good track and field athlete in high school. So did the coach at CMU like actually reach out to you? And
so I reached out to schools that I wanted to get to.
Okay.
Typically schools reach out to you, but I wasn't good enough to the point where I was getting reached out to by too many schools. So I got reached out to by like, some of the local smaller schools that I mentioned, like we're in the middle of nowhere schools like Cincinnati Central University, stuff like that. So like I had been getting reached out to in that manner, but like at that point academics was more important. But for the places that I had been reaching out to, I was reaching out to like D3 programs that were known for academics. So this is like Carnegie Mellon, UChicago, Emory University, Washington University in St. Louis, Johns Hopkins, or John Hopkins. I don't know, it's plural or not. People are very picky about that.
I think it's John's.
Whatever. Get over yourself. Anyway, that school. are like there's a school in New Jersey called Stevens Institute of Technology, stuff like that. I was like prioritizing academics first, obviously, but since like track was just a lifestyle for me, if I could continue that in college, that would have been really nice. So that was kind of like one factor for me looking at colleges. Actually, I did have a chance to do track at Cornell, almost, but
Almost.
that never happened.
Oh.
That's a mini story in and of itself. But I will pause for questions because I've been talking for a bit.
Pause for questions. No, it's like the presentation.
Listen, I do want to hear that story.
Patrick,
I think
why did you send Sussy Baka in this chat? What the fuck?
it's because we were talking about Among Us. And
I didn't. Jäger.
What?
Deku, you Sussy Baka.
I never actually understood like how that even came to be. I just saw that people said that, and then they had Among Us photos
It's just
along with it. And I don't want to know, Len.
I
Don't
spend too
explain.
much time
please
on
don't.
TikTok.
No, thank you. I don't need to know.
There's not much explanation.
Okay.
It's just making fun of like.
All right, that's already enough. Thank you, Len.
fans.
Thank you, Len. I just
Yes.
want to. I think what
Let
you
me pause for
said.
questions.
It like lines up with what Seaver was saying, like how the whole process worked for him as well as an athlete.
Mhm.
Because we kind of asked the same question, him being on the swim team. So
Wow,
makes
so
a
is
lot of
this
sense.
unoriginal content for the podcast?
Listen,
We're
it's
an
different.
athlete
Gosh.
interview themed podcast.
Listen, it's
There's more to me than just that.
it's a cool perspective, and I really appreciate
Your
it.
mom's a cool perspective.
She is, or maybe not to some people. All right. I said what I want to say. Let's listen to this Cornell story. What is this Cornell story?
Does Nail have
story.
anything to say?
Nothing as interesting as the Cornell story, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. So, yeah. Now, I actually found out that I got into CMU a bit earlier than other people. So,
that lines
what
up with
happened?
Seaver as well. He said the same thing.
I was just driving home from the gym one day, and I got a call from my coach. Sorry, let me preface the story. Now, I had been competing with like a group of people outside of my public school. So I had been going to like this like small gym, but there was a great network of throwers there, and I had like met a lot of like really good people in the throwing community. Like I have second degree connections to Olympians and stuff like that, which is pretty
Oh
cool.
my god. All right. Okay, flex.
And like but yeah, it's just like pretty cool to be in that kind of environment. But because of that, I was able to connect with the coach at Cornell. And he sees me, and I'm like, I come from a school where there have been Cornell track. Actually, yeah, there had been a Cornell track athlete, and I had the academics for it on paper, like. And I think for the Ivy League specifically, if you have a plus 1400 SAT and athletically recruited, you're like set. And for me, I had above those requirements, fortunately. So like, now for me, for the Ivy Leagues, I was just like, I was a possible if on the athletic side, because I kind of like glowed up athletically senior year, like my junior year stats, which is typically what they recruit you based off of, wasn't that great. But he saw a lot of growth in me, and he was kind of like willing to take a bet on that.
This is the Cornell guy?
Yeah, the Cornell guy.
Okay.
And so we were texting, and the day he texted me was like, he like got my number from someone or something like that, and just out of the blue, it's like, "Hey, Len, this is Coach Redacted from Cornell." I was like, "OMG, hey!" It's like, "Yeah, let's schedule a time to talk and get to know each other." And so usually this is like him reaching out to me. We talk about my background is, athletic goals are, etc., and him like trying to recruit me and stuff. And so like, while nothing was formal, he had told me like, yeah, essentially, now I'm not going to say anything to you right now, but if you come to Cornell, I expect you to be at at practice. So I was like, oh shoot, that's like really cool. I could like, I don't know, be at an Ivy League, be at a Division 1 school. Like that would have been pretty sick.
Cornell is Div 1?
Yeah, all the Ivy
Ooh.
Leagues are Division 1.
Okay.
And so, but then, so I was like all giddy and happy in the gym. I was like, oh my gosh, like guess what? And then on my way home from the gym, I got a call from the CMU coach. It's like, hey, Coach Aldridge, what's up? I'm like, hey, Len. These were like verbatim. Hey, Len, do you have my number saved on your phone? I was like, yeah, what's up? Yeah, I do. Why, what's up? Because you're going to need it for the next 4 years when you're going to Carnegie Mellon. Congratulations. I was like, now this was the most like unfortunate congratulations that I could have gotten, because the day that the prospect of a Division 1 and Ivy League school was put in front of me was the day that I had gotten into CMU. Now, for context, I applied early decision to CMU, and like for the longest time, even like I had done a in-person visit to CMU, and like for the longest time, even like track aside, like I really wanted to go to Carnegie Mellon just because like I was interested in CS to begin with. It seemed like a good balance of like city and not city. Like there's just a lot of things I liked about CMU as a school. But then it was kind of like the idea of Cornell was cool, right? So then I was kind of conflicted. I was like, oh, this is kind of awkward. Like I got an early decision, so I have to go, but like I could theoretically not go and then screw over everyone from my township for Ivy League, right? And then I thought about it some more. Like I got advice from other people, and obviously now I'm at CMU. But
Almost went to Cornell.
The idea was essentially like if you had let's say 2 girls, right? One
And
is
one
like
cup. Sorry.
and you had 1 cup.
Okay.
No. if you had let's say you have 2 girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll call one Tap and one call No, I'm just kidding. Like one is a childhood friend of yours, and like you guys are best friends, and you can see something romantically in like just the way you interact is like
what the fuck
super
is going
cute
on?
and wholesome and everything.
Okay.
That's girl A, right?
That's
All
CMU.
right. Yep.
Like you've been together for a while, and
Is this a real girl?
You've had some up and no.
Are you sure?
And then yes, and then let's say there's a girl B, right?
Mm-hmm.
Girl B, you don't really know her. She's pretty hot. Girl B was Cornell for me, and girl A was CMU.
Oh. Maybe girl B in your example has to be like some goth girl, because Cornell has a history of depression.
Yes. So yeah, like at the end of the day, it was like I had been wanting to go to CMU for the longest time. I got it. So the only thing that was exciting to me about Cornell was the status that came along with it. Not like for the actual school itself. Like I didn't really know much about it besides like, it's an Ivy League. And yeah, I've been very happy with my choice so far. There's definitely been some really tough moments at CMU, but it feels like a choice that is fitting for me. Like I feel a lot more comfortable, or at least like I feel like CMU fits me better than Cornell would have.
Yeah, and we're glad you're here.
And it's also pretty crazy because like had I not gotten into CMU with my athletics, my next top choice was Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey. And they're both pretty good schools, but like on paper by rankings, I guess. I feel like an asshole for saying this, but they're pretty far apart.
That's all
so
right.
Like one was
like I've never heard of that place, so
Yeah, so the one was like a target. Well, CMU was like a shotgun or reach school. Yeah, reach school. And then Stevens would have been like a match or a safety for me.
Okay.
So yeah, like my life could have been very different had I not gotten into CMU.
So
like, the notion of Fang and everything would have been like way out of question and stuff like that.
What made you so interested and want to go to CMU? So this must have developed before or during these college applications because you decide to apply ED, right? So
So
what was it about CMU?
I the first thing was the notion of using track to get into college, a college that I might have not gotten into just purely off academics. And then the second thing was like a good CS because I wanted to do computer science.
Okay.
Now, CMU CS speaks for itself. Compared to its similarly ranked things, I wasn't good enough athletically for MIT, and UC Berkeley is Division One, Stanford is Division One. So that's that. Also, the CMU track coach is specifically very good for throwing, which is what I do, and he has a very strong resume of throwing. I don't know if you've seen like articles, but he's like
How is he a
current
coach
Olympic
then
coach.
if he throws all the time?
What's up?
No, he doesn't
my
throw. He
God.
coaches throws, right?
Yeah, he was making like a gamer
I was
reference
make-
about like throwing the game.
Yeah, I was making a
Oh
joke
my!
about
Patrick,
that.
that was not very poggers. Anyway,
I thought that was a good one. I thought that was a good one.
That went way. You threw that way over my head.
Well, clearly it only went over your head because Len understood that so easily.
no, I was confused at first, and then I remembered what I'm talking. I remembered the fact that I'm on a podcast. So I figured, okay, there's probably okay. Anyway, yeah. So he's like very good for throwing, and I thought like it would have been very fitting to like do that, right? So because typically a good throwing coach is hard to find. Throwing is like a very niche thing, and it's kind of hard to find good coaches. Like my public school coach wasn't that great. He's a lovely guy. I love him, but he
It's public
objectively
school.
he objectively is not a thrower, right? He's just an English teacher who did track when he was in high school.
Yeah.
So I had to like go outside and find more resources myself. But having like him being a good throws coach, that would have been like really great and really cool to learn from him. And like he had, he's currently, or I guess he's no longer at the Olympics because it's over. But like, yeah, he went to Tokyo as the USA coach and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even before that, he had a long tenure of like going to coach world championships and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
Yeah, like people are always like kind of surprised, like, oh, why is the CMU coach from the Olympics? That's so random, but it's actually not that random. He actually has like a pretty long resume of like these kind of things. Anyway, yeah, so that was the thing that drew me in first. Like, this is already sounding really good on paper, right? Top CS school in the nation, and I can do track, and it's not only good for track, but it's good for throwing specifically. So it was like CS and throwing, that's already like a pretty uncommon combo that was like appealing to me, right? And then when I looked more into the school as like a school, it just kind of like drew me more to it, like the city of Pittsburgh seemed like, it's still a city, but it wasn't like overwhelming, maybe like New York. It's like it's a very safe city relative to somewhere like southern Chicago.
St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah.
I have a friend who goes to WashU.
Or Baltimore.
I have a friend who goes to WashU in St. Louis, and he tells me like stories of just people there getting robbed and shit, like his friends. Like it's crazy.
Also think about it, like South Side Chicago, right?
Yeah.
That's where like a lot of literally rap artists. This is like Derrick Rose and he's not rap, like NBA players like Derrick Rose, Anthony Davis, rappers like Chief Keef, like literal like gang activity. Like by definition, like gangs.
Derrick Rose's
come from
gang activity.
No, Chief Keef.
Yeah, but I like how you mentioned Anthony Davis and Derrick Rose.
Because he's also because they're from that area. Like it's just straight hood, right?
I get it. Yeah.
And then in the heart of that, you have the University of Chicago. Same thing with plural slash singular John Hopkins, right? Johns Hopkins. It is in Baltimore, and Baltimore is not like the best place either. So like that's one thing, right? See, Pittsburgh is like where we are in Pittsburgh is the most dangerous thing is drunk college students. Like for the most part, you're not going to be in danger of physical danger of your life. You might see some sus drunk college kids being drunk college kids, but like no one's like out to get you for the most part.
Yeah,
Now,
I had never seen so many.
obviously, I have to note that I speak from like a point of privilege as a tall guy. Probably don't know what it's like a lot of the other things, but even like by the numbers, like Pittsburgh is like pretty safe compared to a lot of these other places. So that was one thing. So like been babbling on for a while, but like we mentioned so far that throwing and CS already attracted me, right? This is top tier CS and top tier throwing that I was getting, and then now I'm sort of like justifying the auxiliary reasons. One being Pittsburgh is safe, like pretty chill city. Two was like I think I appreciated the notion of a medium-sized college, like for example Rutgers, big New Jersey State School would have been like a lot of people, and I don't know how I personally felt about being in like a huge school like that. Also didn't know how I felt about being in a tiny school, like maybe those small little arts ones in like the New England. So like kind of like a happy medium there in terms of size for CMU. And then yeah, just like some other auxiliary reasons. Those are probably just some other random things that I thought of. And then when I also got to do a visit there in person.
Ooh.
And when I did that, I had met like a group of pretty fun people, and like it just felt like a fun and wholesome time.
Dude, it seems like these.
And I also got to sit in on a lot of classes. I understood nothing. Like I was in one. It was pretty funny. I was in 112, and they had a quiz that day. And I just sat in and I got a piece of paper and I took the quiz.
Wait, did you have to pass it in?
I had no idea how to do any of it. And then when they were passing it in, I was like, well, I'm not a student here, so I'm going to just keep this for the memories. So I put it in my backpack. And then the dude sitting next to me was like, what the fuck? What, are you not turning it in? I was like, I don't go here. He was like, what? Like, because I think he might have been like cheating on me too.
Oh my god! Did you actually write shit?
Like, yeah, I was trying to solve it because like I knew a little bit of Python, but like
too bad for him.
But yeah, so like I got to sit on 112. I also got to sit on like hard classes like constructive logic. Or Clogic, 15317, right? Which is pretty crazy because it was Professor Curry teaching it at that time, and he would end up teaching 150 in one of the semesters that I TA'd it. So I don't think he would remember me as a high schooler who visited his classes, but still.
Do you still have your 112 quiz?
Nah, I don't know where it is.
So sad.
But yeah, I just like being able to sit in on the classes too. Like it felt like a very realistic thing for me. Now, did I like computer science the same way I like eating ice cream and watching movies? No, not at all. But did going to sit in on classes make me feel better about it? Like, yeah, this feels like a realistic option. Like, this is something that I think is pretty neat to learn. And like I feel suited towards doing this work 100%. So yeah, the two, like, CMU CS speaks for itself, and then the coach being really good for throwing specifically. Wow. Those two things already in and of itself is like a big enough draw for me to be like, yes, this is top choice. But then on top of that, being able to visit in person helped me justify a lot of the auxiliary reasons.
Yeah.